Welcome to the latest episode of Founders First with ARIISE Partners. With me today is Stacy, Kehren, Idema with Equati. It is a connectivity platform for family offices and other investors to find investable opportunities, whether it be startups, small businesses, or acquisitions.
Thanks, Ryan, and thanks for the introduction. Uh, Equati is a wealth tech platform that helps family offices consolidate their fragmented business information and helps them align their family values with their alternative investment thesis to streamline decision making through personalized scoring. So it's really, they call it matchmaking between the family office investor and the business seeking capital, and we're just helping the family offices do that more succinctly.
How long have you been doing this? How long has Equati been around?
Yeah, about 2 years.
About 2 years.
Yeah.
Excellent. What's been the biggest on the journey here? I'd like you to talk about your journey here, but I'd like you to start with what's been the biggest challenge, because pitching investors is one thing. What have you found to be the number one thing family offices are looking for,
Oh, oh, what they're looking for?
besides a huge return with no work?
A huge return. They actually quality deals. Like their biggest is they want. Many of them don't believe they have access to quality deals, that they get the bottom of the barrel.
Even if they're getting quality deals, they still think that there's better deals out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's been my experience with family offices.
And really that misunderstanding between a quality deal and deal flow and deal quality, they intermingle them. And they're not as intermingled. They're very two separate, but yet parallel path things. That was a big learning for me.
What was the impetus? How did you come up with the name? What was the journey to get to where you're at now?
So my journey starts in family business, but uniquely I ran from it into corporate. So I spent 27 years in commercial, financial services, healthcare, all in technology. So I'm a data geek, love technology, love innovation. It was a layoff in 2019 that brought me back to entrepreneurship, that thing that I promised myself I would never get into.
And you regret it every day since.
Yeah, yeah. It's the strangest things. I worked my I worked my ass off in corporate. I've far worked my more doing this, and actually I couldn't be happier.
That's what they say is the juice, right? The
Yeah.
famous Mark Cuban line, "I'd rather make $50,000 working for myself than $500,000 working for somebody else."
Yeah, 100%.
I don't know if I agree with that, but I mean, on some
Well,
level.
yeah. There's pros and cons to everything, right? Uh,
So the journey, you got laid off. What was the impetus to this idea?
so it actually came by way of me going back to entrepreneurship with this idea that I was going to help the female founder. I was going to help the female executive. And I was going to do that in a completely different way. But a trip to London and the idea to stay in London actually landed me to my first business. And that was really focused on helping female led businesses and male led VCs really work together and creating a different ecosystem around that. So I went
So
in
you're an
like,
idealist. You're an idealist.
right, right, like guns a blazing into a market that I was sort of familiar with, but probably with the bigger passion of making change, and fell flat on my face. Like,
It's not your fault. It's
it
not your
fell flat
fault.
on my face.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault. You just keep telling yourself it's not your fault. It is such a broken system. It's not your fault. I think everyone from ARIISE Partners, from our last iteration, ARIISE Equati, and our last iteration with a fund, ever since I was a fund manager, trying to connect lower represented groups to capital was our mission.
Yeah.
And for 12 straight years, I think we have not made a dent in that issue. And it has nothing to do with us. It has more to do, and this is why ARIISE Partners exists, it's the preparation. You can go blind on an email and a deck. It doesn't matter what group sends it. But if the deck doesn't have the fundamentals, if the
Yeah.
financials don't have the fundamentals,
Yeah.
You won't even get a talk, or you won't get a good talk. And then when you walk in the room and you're this beautiful blonde woman or this strong man or some underrepresented group, then the eyes go, oh shit. But if the numbers are there and the prep is there, we found that that's the difference. So that's what started ARIISE Partners, was getting the prep going, getting everybody up to the level, to your point, to a family office investable level. So that's the issue. Would you go back and do anything differently getting to this point?
No. I mean, truly, it was like running into a brick wall for 14 months. So I commend you for going on as long as you have with the attempt to get
12
that far.
years.
I mean,
12 years.
just, yeah,
Yeah,
I
I'm
was
a
like,
I'm a glutton for
oh my God.
punishment. Yeah,
And
exactly.
and so am I, but I had a good friend who asked me a question that flipped everything upside down. And because my focus has always been to build a technology with the users, having come from technology, knowing what it takes to build technology and do it effectively, so it's not just feature, 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 that has been the base framework. Even knowing that there would be pieces of the problem I'm solving that won't be solvable through a technology. So that question that she asked me was all around that technology. And when I said I was still waiting to build it with them, so I was positioning really the idea, that question, something just flipped that day. And I literally the next day started all over. And
I gotcha.
and in the meantime, met a woman who does business design. So I went back to do the things I'd done in corporate, and then met now a woman who's my go-to-market advisor. And from that, started building it out.
Now, brings up a topic that we have not covered in this show yet, but I assure you will be in almost every episode moving forward. The number of entrepreneurs that have heard the old adage, jump and build the plane on the way down, boggles my mind, bothers me. It's almost sickening how many founders build an idea or a product that they think the market wants
Yeah.
before looking at what the market is telling them it
Yeah.
wants and building that. Because it's the image, it's the perfect mousetrap, right? It's the ivory tower. I'm building this beautiful thing. It's going to change the world, change the dynamic of a female founder with a male VC. But I haven't done my market research. I haven't done my analysis. I haven't done my what's it called, focus group. A couple grand on that saves a lot more money in the development of a product or a service. So that's what the thing is. I always try to tell founders is you gotta go do your research first.
Yep.
And what's amazing is a lot of don't.
I know.
They spend all this money reiterating 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, finding that market fit. And what's bizarre is if you do the research, you probably avoid at least 2 to 3 of those iterations. You're way closer on the first draft.
Yeah.
Did you have any of those problems when you were developing Equati?
So I'm a research nerd. So I
As you said, yeah.
spent quite a bit of time researching. What I did with that research was I let it sit with me for a while, and then I started actually just pitching it without a pitch deck, without a solution, without anything, and just started talking about it. And it was a year ago today that after doing all that work and starting to get people on board, starting to get people interested, that I started hand drawing what the technology would do and how it would interact. And then from there, I sent it to a designer who did my first prototype, and I used that prototype to go demo. And so from February to September, I demoed 130 times to get feedback, to listen to the questions, to actually flesh out 6 other use cases.
The big question I have on top of that is, okay, you did all that. Was it
Mhm.
the right path, or would you change something on the way?
No, it was the right path. Even though it felt kinda like a slow burn, it's one of the things that I needed to make sure about is what's my unique service proposition? What's that USP? What's that thing I'm trying to solve? What's that pain? Because there was a lot of them. What's the pain that I wanna solve, and what's the pain that resonates the most? And uniquely, it all blended with, the minimum viable brand work that I did, as well as even the legal stuff that I did. and putting together master services agreement and statements of work, and everything I did all happened around the same time.
Makes
Yeah.
sense. Makes sense. Now, obviously, the corporate money gave you a little bit more runway than the typical young founder has, unless they have the rich daddy. Talk about briefly then the excruciating wait to see the first iteration of the product that you know will work, right? You're ready, you have it, you've spent a year pitching this unavailable item, right? This
Yep.
promise.
Yeah.
Now you're ready to start development and you got to wait and learn the development process. How excruciating was that delay to see the first version of this?
Not as bad as I thought it would be because I was very intentional about the dev team that I hired and the work that we did. So all the work that I did up front, when we went into discovery, we actually finished discovery 2 weeks early. And so they got to develop. And in 4 weeks, I actually had something I could play with.
For our founders who don't know what discovery is, why don't you give us your definition of that?
Discovery. Discovery is when you take that idea that you have, and in my case, I had not only the idea, but the visuals of it, and they start to dig in to understand more deeply, how do I think it should work? How might they develop it? What are the nuances of it? And also, what's the priority? So for a really ugly baby MVP, because my baby's ugly, it doesn't look as pretty as it does in the design. What's the outcome I want to achieve? And then what's the path to get there? So that's what we did in discovery.
No, that makes sense. I mean, we've heard different words for it over the years. The discovery process, developing a wireframe,
Yeah.
you know, point 0.5 versus 1.0, which is a
Yeah.
working model. We've heard other iterations of different words of that as well, but I was just curious what you meant by discovery. So,
Yeah. And those are all familiar to me as well. I just happened to have the wireframes before they even started discovery, so it helped move it along faster.
no, that makes sense. That makes sense. In the apps that we developed, we did the same thing. We had the wireframe very, very early. We had sketches and we actually had
Yeah.
mock-ups done by cheap graphic designers just to give a visual. And then what we did was take the visual and made boards. This is where it goes next. This is when you click here, it goes here. This is what it does. And it worked flawlessly to speed the process up.
100%. Absolutely.
Directors in movies, they storyboard,
Uh-huh.
they draw, sketch. A lot of the old guys still do it. And what they'll do is they'll storyboard the movie, the angle, the shot, the action, write down some nuances. And the most famous one is James Cameron. He's completely a visual artist. He's not really a director. He just directs for money, right? Basically, he's a visual artist.
Okay.
And his storyboards are the whole movie. And the idea is that you're working through all the shots before the crew ever shows up, before the caterer shows up or the vans show up or anything.
Yeah.
You have the whole movie. And a lot of directors pitch the movie with their storyboards to say, here's next, and then this, and then this, and then this. I find if you do the same thing with SaaS, it works just as well.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting them the visual cues of this screen, then this screen, then this screen, but this is what it does in between.
Yeah.
Well, that is going to cost money and time, but to have those visual storyboard cues, it'll speed up the process of development, discovery, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
what
and
we did with
that's
ours.
interesting.
Yeah, that's what we did with ours, and it sped up the process immensely. And then when we got the price, but the proposals back, and we saw the prices, we laughed at them. We're like, it's almost done. Don't even try. Don't even try to pull one over on us. We're not rookies here. We're not rookies.
Yeah, and that could be a whole separate episode on how that panned out. Yeah.
Well,
I'm but yeah.
that's a phenomenal segue into my favorite segment of the show, which is who screwed you and who helped you.
I would say if anything, I screwed myself.
How so?
Because there's not trusting my intuition on a number of things and how I made some early decisions. I didn't trust myself in probably making the decisions faster. I interviewed 8 dev teams over 14 months. And when I finally got to the one that resonated, it was almost as if I was waiting for something else to go wrong instead of trusting.
My guess is, based on your data background, you put them through the ringer.
Yeah.
And to the development team out there who's watching this episode and cursing you and flipping off the screen, she thanks you for all the hard
Yeah.
work you did.
Yeah, and I did. I thanked him every day.
I always tell founders, find development teams that resonate and they see it.
Yeah.
If they see it and are somewhat passionate about it, you're going to have a much smoother process than some guy who might be the better or in some ways cheaper alternative.
Yeah.
If they don't see it, you're going to spend a lot of hours explaining your vision versus just having it feel as though you're both moving forward at the same direction.
Yeah. Agree. In fact, they were so excited, like we couldn't start fast enough. So that was really fun. And the good news is this dev agency, they're all entrepreneurs, even down to the developers. They've either had their own business or they've already been a part of another exited business. And so that was one of the core reasons I chose them. But 100% I would agree with you. The fact that they were so excited and even had so many other ideas, not to take us off track, but just little things that I hadn't considered that they offered up to make things work faster, to make things work easier. Yeah.
So the other side of that segment, who saved you, who helped you?
Some of the most unexpected people. All the people that were in, that Stace were in, we love what you're doing, keep us on the journey. And I would give them updates and do all this stuff. And they'd be like, yep, keep going, keep going. I see what you're doing. This is who you need to talk to. This is the opportunity. And they followed through. So there's been enough to be on, both hands. People that were really unexpected that just showed up that have
I think for
really
us,
saved me.
I think so. Your cheerleading section
Yeah, 100%.
and the well-timed advocate was who
Yeah.
saved you.
Yeah.
That's
And there's
fair.
been a few of them.
Okay. Advice to others. You meet a young woman who wants to save the world from vicious male VCs to female founders.
Yeah.
And she comes to you and says, I love what you built. Teach me. What would you do different?
Figure herself out first.
So you're asking a young woman to be self-aware.
Yeah.
You are an idealist.
It's been a game changer, especially after falling flat on my face, when I finally hit that reality of this has, like you said, you're not wrong. This has nothing to do about me. And how do I move forward in this and do it from a place of integrity? Not
Well, what
only
if someone's
surrounding
on it? What if the young woman isn't in integrity type of person? What if she's just a quick cash, let's roll, turn and burn, let's go? Would you cut her loose
Would I
as your
tell?
mentee? Would you
Probably.
push her? Yeah, I mean, would you? Because you have to align yourself with a similar beast as a mentor.
Yeah. Because there's a coachability part to this, regardless of if she's not I'm not going to be self-aware and I'm just going to go out there. There's still a coachability part of this that happens. How coachable are you? Because if it's not me, it's going to be an investor or an advisor or a board advisor. There's going to be somebody that's going to look at that person, and if they're not coachable, they'll run into another brick wall.
I learned, my background's architecture and I was in design school. The mentality was no one knows, right? There is no right answer and there is no wrong answer. Now, that's not true, but that's what they started programming into us on day one, because it was an ideation type of environment with studios.
Okay.
It was try this, take it as far as it'll go. Now try this, take that as far as it'll go. And by doing, producing, doing, drawing, sketching, building, doing it again, over, tear it down, burn it, do it again, again, and again, you get to this process where you're learning your process.
Yeah.
And that was really the hidden agenda of the whole school program. The studio really wasn't about designing these beautiful things, although many beautiful things came out of it. The idea was you're learning you. You're
Okay.
learning
Yeah.
your process. I had a classmate who could not design a box without having a 6-pack of beer. He had to lower his inhibitions and lower his anxiety to get there.
Okay.
I
Just-
hope he's okay wherever he is.
And you bring up a good point. If they don't know who they are and what they're about when they go out there, they'll be too influenced by what everyone else says they
Or
believe
the
that they have
opposite,
to do.
they'll shut it out.
Yeah.
Because shutting it
Yeah.
out, in my opinion, is worse.
Yeah. There's some
I mean,
critical
let's
learnings
think
on that.
think about it. Like if you make every mistake possible and you're halfway intelligent and halfway accountable, which is my hope for humanity, you'll learn and you'll get better and you'll make less mistakes. But if you shut everyone off and like, I know, you have no chance for that.
Yeah. And I would say there's certain times during this journey that I've shut people out, not to say that I know, but to be able to digest everything that you've learned and then to be able to articulate it, do that lesson learn and come out and either do something different or know that you can move that thing, scale that thing, whatever that thing is.
The most important thing for a founder is fast failure. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Now, how do you marry that with the year-long data research project you did before building it?
So my journey is slightly unique in that I also moved to a foreign country and started a new business. So I had the panic and angst of, is HMRC going to come and take away my business because I'm not moving fast enough? Mixed with moving my business forward and also not trusting that I knew that there wasn't something right. So I knew that there wasn't something right in those 14 months. But I'm the kind of person that will go see things through to the end. So that was definitely huge insights to the next phase, which got me to Equati. So along the way, though, on the equity journey, every uh, everything that hasn't worked out, I've been able to cut it loose faster. So it's almost like those little micro decisions that you make, and if things aren't going, it's cutting them off and cutting them out faster.
If that was a segue to my book, thank you.
Hmm.
If it wasn't a segue to my book, Micro Decisions is coming out soon. So
So I think to your point,
I
though,
appreciate the setting on that if that was intentional.
yeah, well, it just aligned really well. But I
Hey,
think to your
listen,
point
that's why
about
the book has to exist.
I think your point about the failing fast, though, it doesn't have to be that the business itself fails. There can be things in it that aren't working that may
Mhm,
ultimately shift the business, and it's how
mhm.
do you shift out of those little failures faster? Yeah.
No, agreed. Now, I will segue into this. Everyone who
Mhm.
comes on pitches their firm. You're now the female founder walking into the vicious male-dominated
Mhm.
VC room.
Oh god.
They they thought your deck was great and your product was great, and now you walk in and, oh my god, she's a woman.
Yeah.
And the anxiety begins and their eyeballs begin and all of the little chitter-chatter begins in the background, and you have to stand up in front of those clowns and pitch them. Give me the one sentence. Give me the one paragraph.
Ugh. You know what? I have to be
I had to
honest,
set the
it
stage for
changed.
you. I had to
I
set
know, but it seems to change every single day. That's the problem.
It is a problem. That's a
It is a
big
problem.
problem.
It keeps getting tighter and tighter, but it's still a problem. Yeah.
Do you want
Oh,
to count down or are you just gonna go?
no. I'm gonna go. Yeah, no. It's a problem. I seem to do much better just in a casual setting. The pressure piece, I continue to work on. Yeah,
Well, I
it's
mean,
real.
you're merging our last two segments together, the problem solve and the
Yep.
pitch, because that's the
Yeah.
problem. How do you pitch? You did such a phenomenal job when there was no pressure introducing yourself.
Yeah.
Concise, a little wordy,
A little
but
wordy.
concise.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Where did it come from inside you?
It comes from knowing. It comes from not only the research, but just knowing exactly what it does and how it does it and the problems that it solves. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna test you here. Close your
Yeah.
mouth, close your eyes, breathe, box breathe. For those of you that don't know about box breathing, look it up. Box breathe this for a minute. Close your eyes, open them up. You're not on a podcast. You're not in front of a white male venture capitalist, although you are. Ignore me and open up your eyes and say the exact same thing you did at the beginning because it's casual. No more setting
Yeah.
the stage. Just box breathe, close your eyes, and go.
Equity consolidates fragmented business information and aligns the family values and the alternative investments to streamline decision making through personalized scoring.
Okay.
Mm.
4 family offices
For family offices
focused on their legacy.
focused on their legacy.
Now you have your pitch.
Now I have my pitch.
There you go.
Thanks.
That's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
You're still in front of a venture capitalist, by the way, so oh my God, you did it.
Did it. I did it.
Ah! I promise we're not all jackasses all the time.
No.
But we do have to say no a lot because unfortunately, going back to what we do, a lot of firms aren't ready for money. And it's really hard to tell the founder who's done a 2-year journey, built 4 iterations of their magic box, believes in it, their cheerleaders believe in it, their families and friends believe in it. They might even have money from those family and friends in it to be told it's not ready for investment.
Yeah.
That's a very hard day. Everything else is typically comes from the VC. They have their buckets, they have their budgets, they have their rollouts, they have their timelines, they have their goals for multiples. That's the thing with the founders I wish I could teach every founder without having to talk to every founder. There's so much bias that goes into a venture capitalist's decision to invest. Do I see myself using this product? Do I see myself as the founder? Can I make enough money on this to cover my last 3 mistakes? Which is a big one. They need something with a quick multiple, with a quick exit, or a quick turnover to make up for the last 3 misses because they got pressure from their LPs and their board because they're missing. Those are the things, it's rough out there.
Yeah.
That's where you're getting no's without it being your fault. And that's why you have to brush those ones off. If they say it's not the right timing, that's a VC problem. Just don't get scared of the no's.
I think that's part of the journey that I also recognize when I first started and how I was approaching it. And now I love the no's. Because I get to ask more questions. It's almost like a relief. The investors became much more interested when they asked if I was raising. And I told them no, that it was focused on selling and focused on really that sponsored capital. Their ears and eyes perk up. And you get to have a
As they
different
should.
conversation. You get to have a different conversation with them about that as well.
Well, the thing I try to tell people is if you're using the money to fund more money, you're going to get traction with a VC. If you're using the money to pay your debt off or to pay salaries or to launch 4.0 or 5.0, that's a lot harder to get a yes out of a VC. Because if 1, 2, 3, and 4.0 didn't make money, why is 5 going to be the difference? Now you're selling the problem you have, not the problem the market has. Well, if 1 didn't sell, why'd you build 2? 2 didn't sell, why'd you build 3? If 3 didn't sell, why'd you build 4?
Yeah.
If you don't have good constructive research, to your point, in between those iterations, and you're just blindly building the perfect box, it's a no. And that's a you problem, not a VC problem.
Yeah.
But if you say, hey, we're making $25 an hour, and if I put in $1,000 a day, I can make that $25,000 an hour. Ears perk up, eyes get big. VCs are like, how? And if you have the data and you have the drivers, you will get money. If you don't know how you will make money, you will not get venture capital money. But venture capital money is the only game in town.
Yeah.
The family office that you're building for, different set of eyes.
I actually think they'll be my investors. for that reason.
To the founders out there, walk them through briefly how a family office views an opportunity different than a venture capital group, because you've been pitching both.
Yeah. So with family offices, because the root of a family office is a family business. And so there's going to be some drivers, some purpose, some history. There'll be something that really drives them that's more purpose led. Because when you get to that level of wealth, there's also the philanthropy side of it. There's the civic side. There's the business and the investments, and then there's the heartstrings. And usually the investments, there's some tie in somewhere. Could it be the family executive? Could it be their future generation, the legacy? It could be any one of those things. When you see one family office, you see one family office. None of them are the same. There might be common business themes that are underlying, but none of them are the same. So they often look at investments from the framework as, does it fit their values? Does it fit their legacy? Some tie into that they can be, I don't want to say known for, but where they've had an impact. So it could be anything from the matriarch of the family has had cancer. Therefore, they're more interested in biotech and, cancer research things. Could be
That goes
some
back
that
to the
are,
conversation we had about biases within the VC or the
yeah,
investor and at large. They don't know what's going on in their heads behind the table.
yeah,
Now, do family
yeah.
offices typically have theses for their investments, or is it more of a feel?
The range. You can have some that just wing it and some that have a whole thesis centered around it.
And for the
There's
listeners
no
that don't know what a
consistency.
thesis is, whether it be a fund, a venture capital group, or a family office, or even a proud investor, a thesis is their parameters for investing. If they fit certain mold, whether it be the industry or the size or the profit margin, that's the thesis. If it fits the thesis, you have a better chance of closing capital with that group.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So same rules apply in family office. It's just whether or not they have that.
I've always said that if a 5-year-old can understand what it is, you're not pitching properly. So maybe
If a 5-year-old can't understand it, okay. I was thinking a 12-year-old, but a 5-year-old,
no,
5-year-old.
no, no, no. You have to
That's a
remember.
beautiful challenge. I can do that probably. I'll go back to the drawing board with that. That'll be easy. I'm taking that away.
I don't even know if a 12-year-old could pick up some of the words you were throwing down in your pitch. I got to be honest. They're
I'm
so
getting there.
glazed over with screens. I don't know if they understand vocabulary. You got to be
Yeah,
careful.
yeah, yeah.
We
Fair
come
enough.
from a different generation.
Mm-hmm.
We actually held books in our hands and learned words
Yes, we did.
and did spelling contests. It's a
Yes,
different animal now.
yes, it is.
So again, thank you very much. Again, this is Stacy, Kehren, Idema with Equati on the Founders First podcast with ARIISE Partners. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks, Ryan.